Welcome, everyone, to episode number 57 here on the Breona Micole podcast. This is the Creator Series. Today, I welcomed a Houston, Texas native. She's a singer-songwriter. She's also a very talented businesswoman. Her name is Breona Micole. I discovered Breona through her EP called Naked that she dropped at the top of the year. I reached out to her about working together on music, and obviously we haven't done anything yet, but hopefully we'll be doing that very soon. She actually mentioned in this episode how she's working on a jazz project, which I'm actually beginning to at least develop the idea for a jazz project of my own that'll be in the works, so I'd like to get her involved in that eventually. But overall, in this episode, we talked a lot about finances, really, as far as like being able to balance your financial life with your music and how you can take your experiences and, you know, even if you just have a normal day job, you can take the experiences of that and apply it to, you know, your entrepreneurship as an artist, because a lot of artists tend to overlook the fact that they need a real plan as far as, you know, budgeting. Budgeting is a huge thing every month, trying to figure out if you're releasing music, if you're spending on ad campaigns and things like that. You know, it can, like I said, it can be overlooked by a lot of people, especially when they first start out. So I thought that was very important, and we haven't talked a lot about that so far in the podcast. So I was happy that she shared that. We also talked a little bit about her influences. Robert Glasper, who I'm a big fan of, was one of her big influences, so I thought that was very cool. I'm really just impressed with Breona's whole attitude toward really her life in general and how she's just bossing up and taking matters into her own hands. And, you know, I can tell she has a giving mentality and a really honest mentality as far as how she views not just the industry, but really just life in general and people. So I have a big appreciation for her, and I was glad to get her on this episode. So without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome, everyone, to episode number 57 here on Breona Micole podcast. This is the Creator Series. Today we have a really incredible singer-songwriter. She's an entrepreneur, businesswoman. Her name is Breona Micole. How are you today?
I'm fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. And like I said, I'm glad to get you on the show here because me and you, we've been talking back and forth, I think, since January about. I remember discovering your EP at the top of the year, the one you dropped in November, the Naked EP and everything. And I was just hooked on what I heard from you. So I was just glad to be able to hear a bit of your story on this show. So basically, what I have the guests do to start out is just give a little bit of background as to how they got started in music, you know, where you're from and everything, and just kind of the basic information for those that might not be familiar with you and your sound.
Okay, well, my name is Breona Micole, and I am a singer, songwriter, and musician from Houston, Texas. I'm 28 years old. I've been doing music pretty much all my life. I grew up in church. My father was a pastor, so music ministry is something that has always been, you know, at the forefront of my life and of my career. Mm-hmm. I dropped my first album shortly after I graduated college. I studied music at Texas Southern University. And so shortly after I graduated, I dropped my first EP, which was Metanoia. And as of recent, in January, actually, I dropped the Naked EP. So, yeah, hope I answered that for you.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I did go back on like your older work, and I noticed it kind of has evolved a little bit from like the first EP to the second one. So what do you think was kind of the change from the first one to the second one? Was it just kind of trying new things out for you, or did you have a different direction? Like, how did that go?
Yeah, well, definitely trying new things out. I would say my first album that I recorded, I actually did that by myself. At my old house that I stayed in when I was in college. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of a self-recorded project. I didn't really know what I was doing. I worked with a couple engineers, but because of my ignorance, I really didn't know like how to communicate just the sound I was looking for. You know, as an artist, you really have to know, you know, what your sound is when you're working in the studio with engineers, you know? So that was a lesson learned. I would say I got a little close to what I was looking for in Metanoia, but not necessarily. So yeah, I was able to grow a little bit more musically from that project to this project. And even when it comes to just my musicianship, my skills, you know, I've been in vocal training. During that time period, I was just constantly writing. I was constantly sharpening my pen. I was constantly doing my vocal warm-ups, just strengthening myself. I was getting myself comfortable, working in the studio more.
Mm.
I actually have an engineer, David Ruiz. He actually produced a lot on that project as well as engineered that. So, we established our relationship in the studio, just getting the feel for one another. So I was able to be more hands-on with the production of Naked. And I will also say that I think just as you go through life and as you go through your journey, your music kind of evolves with you. So that's something that I've always have been big on, is just being as vulnerable as I possibly can, which is what Naked is about. But I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, it's just the growth is the difference from that project to this project.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it's all about, too. It's like if you just continue to kind of put in the work, it'll evolve itself. You know what I mean? Like, because even like for me, like I look at the stuff I did like 5 years ago, and it's so different from now. You know what I mean? Like, it's just you evolve by yourself without even knowing it sometimes. It's just when you continue to work, it's just exactly what will happen anyway. So that's pretty awesome. So as far as like the last year has went, we've gone through a lot in the last year, obviously with the pandemic and just a ton of crazy stuff going on. For you, how did you kind of get through the times that we're in now, and how have you kind of adjusted in any way? Is there anything you've had to overcome, or has it been a lot of the same for you, you think?
There were definitely some things I had to overcome because right before the pandemic hit, I had pretty much sold my car and my place of living, and I was supposed to go live in LA just to further pursue my music career. But literally around that time, my flight was canceled because of COVID, and all of those things started happening. So it was just a big eye-opener for me because at the time, I was just sold on just music. That's all I knew. And, there are other things outside of music. Even as an independent artist, which you are now an independent business owner, you have to know how to be well balanced when it comes to being in terms of supporting your career and doing all of those things. So when the pandemic happened, it just was really like a strain on me financially, as well as it's put a setback on all the things that I wanted to do, or at least that I thought I wanted to do. So what I did was kind of went back to the drawing board. I really was able to pull together outside of music my other business entities and really just pursue those things so that I could get the income up. And, I just started learning about just a lot of things in terms of like being my own business owner, being my own artist, learning a little bit more about marketing. I just really had a hands-on opportunity to just sit and lock in rather than me sitting and thinking, oh man, I didn't make it to LA. I'm thinking, no. So how can we get on social media? Like, how can we get more relevant? What can we do from, being here? So I would say that I really evolved during that time. Another thing that I did a lot was to keep my mind off of that was I worked out a lot and I skated. So I'm a skater. I like to skate. So I picked up that skill around that time just to kind of, keep my mind off of everything that was going on. So I would just go to the park and skate and just, I was really able to live. Honestly, COVID, as crazy as it sounds, COVID was a blessing for me. It was a big eye-opener, too. Like, it just forced me to grow up.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to hear, though, that you came out of it, like, with more of a positive, like, outlook on the whole situation and everything. Like you said, you weren't able to travel the way you wanted to, so you just kind of were stuck. But you didn't let that stop you. You know what I mean? Like, you just kept going through that whole thing. And I think, like, just having those extra hobbies and activities to free your mind sometimes is so important because it's like, we are so focused on just grinding nonstop. It's like you need that time every once in a while to get away and just do something regular, you know what I mean? And not have to think about it. And like, whether that's just going out for a walk. Like for me, I remember last year I would go on walks for like an hour or 2 hours and just go outside and just get some fresh air. Cause it was like, you're in the house all day. Like what else are you going to do? You know what I mean? So I think that's something that a lot of people overlook, but it's very, very vital sometimes. So as far as like your songwriting goes, for example, how I'm interested for you, because you seem like you used a lot of melodic elements in your music and everything. So like,
Mhm.
how does the songwriting process for you usually begin? Is there ever a set way how it starts, as far as like you need to hear the production first, or you have lyrics already to go, or like how does that work, you think?
Uh, to be honest, it's a little bit of both. Everything is so unorthodox.
Mm.
It's funny because when I start writing music, 9 times out of 10, like I'll write a poem from years ago, and I'll just be in the studio and I'll go back and revisit, like, hey, that poem would fit nice on here. How about I add some melodies to it? So really, I write everything as poetry,
Mm-hmm.
and then I turn that poetry like into just I add the melodies, I add the harmony, and just really paint that picture. But yeah, 9 times out of 10, it starts as poetry for me.
Yeah.
So.
Have you ever thought about doing like spoken word or anything? Because I know like on the EP you had those skits that were kind of like that, where you would just read like a poem or something. Have you ever done anything like that, like poetry club or something, or not?
It's funny that you asked that because when I first started out, like as an artist, I was a spoken word artist first.
Yeah.
So I would go to all the poetry slams, on campus,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I would participate in all of them. So spoken word was my thing first, and I just kind of took it a step further when I was able to combine my musicianship with the poetry.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool because I remember listening to the EP and you had those little, I think there was like 3 of them or 2 of them in there, and I was like, oh, that's cool little like breaks in the middle of the music and everything. So as far as like your influences go, like the people that inspired you growing up or maybe still inspire you today, who would those people be, you think?
I would say I didn't really get hip to like good music. I'm not gonna say that. Let me not, because my parents would be mad if they heard me say that. So I grew up on gospel music, but of course, like I guess when it comes to the soul aspect of really feeling things, because I do feel like music is a feeling, and it's gonna be hard for you to just produce the best work when you don't really feel what you're putting out.
Yeah.
So growing up in gospel, like with listening to gospel music, if you listen to gospel music and inspiration, most people are singing so powerful because they actually feel what they're talking about. So I would say that gospel played a big part in me growing up. I'm trying to think of my favorite gospel artists. I really don't have one. I don't know. I just grew up on a little bit of everything. Like I'm old school. So my dad listened to, aside from gospel, we listened to a lot of old school music. I would say one of my favorite vocalists, her name is Layla Hathaway, which is Donny Hathaway's daughter. But yeah, I just grew up an old soul. Like 2 of my favorite movies growing up, one was The Temptations, and the other is The Five Heartbeats, which are 2 music groups that I just grew up listening to a lot. So I remember one day I was in Ross. Do y'all have a Ross out in Ohio?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay, so Ross is kind of like a store where you just get good deals from, and they have like popular products just at a cheaper price. So I was in Ross one time, and I think I was in like the 7th grade, and I was with my grandmother, and I seen this Temptations cassette. At the time, we had the CD players, with the little, you put the CD in there, you close it. So I seen the Temptations cassette, and I was just like, Granny, like, please, you have to give me this cassette. She was just tripping because, like, what do you know about the Temptations? That's from the 60s. Like, why are you listening? I'm just like, it's good music. So I would say, like, groups like the Temptations really inspired me. The Isley Brothers, I love the Isley Brothers. They're probably my favorite group of all time. Earth, Wind, and Fire. Just a lot of soul music is honestly what inspired me. Like, I love Luther Vandross, Teddy Pendergrass, New Edition. It's just so many people that I listen to. H-Town, just older groups. And then, so when I got into college, I kind of started listening to a little bit more of jazz. So with my penmanship, I would say I started listening to a lot of Kendrick Lamar in college back in 2010, 2011. And it just really kind of opened me up to, like, I just used to be amazed, like, man, like, how is he taking these words and he's putting them together? And so I just used to listen to that, and that's really what kind of bridged the gap for me with learning poetry too, is listening to a lot of like Kendrick Lamar and J. Cole and Big Crit. And then I got into, so that's like the hip hop aspect Then I got into listening to jazz music. So there are artists like Robert Glasper, who is literally like one of my favorites. I grew up listening to, not grew up, in college, I started listening to a lot of jazz music, a lot of blues, just kind of, trying to change my direction. And it got a little bit deeper. I started listening to Kate Renata, just switching it up because I wanted to be as well versed as possible. So even if you listen on my old project Metanoia, you hear a little bit of the EDM, and you kind of get a sense of everything. And then also classical music, because I studied music in college. We did a lot of classical music, so I spent many of my years just singing classical. And once I really stepped into like just who I was able to take all of just being inspired by all of those different genres and different artists, and just able to like really find my own through being inspired by them. So yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna mention Robert Glasper to you because I was like, that's a Houston artist right there. Like, she has to probably listen to him. And I know one of my favorite Glasper songs is "Cherish the Day" with Layla Hathaway and Music Soul Child.
Yep.
Oh, I love that song. Yep. That's a great record.
I love Music Soul Child as well. I definitely grew up on some Music Soul Child. But yeah, Cherish the Day. That's my joint. Jesus Children is one that him and Layla Hathaway have together. I love it.
I'm waiting on Black Radio 3 to come out because I guess Glasper's putting that together. Because last year he put out the song with her that won the Grammy. I forget what it was called. I love that song too. I already forget the name, but yeah, he's working on that album. It should be coming out like this year, I think. So I'm looking forward.
I'm very excited.
I wasn't really into jazz music until I got into like college and started listening to more music, and then I listened to I listened to Terrace Martin a lot and Glasper and like God, who else? I forget. Kamasi Washington, you know him? I listen to him a little bit.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, he collabs with them a lot. Like, he plays saxophone and a lot of other. You should look him up. I might send him to you. You might like his music too.
Yeah, please do. Put me on new music.
Yeah, always. So out of all those people that you named, are there any like dream collaborations? Obviously, you probably say all of them, but are there any like specific ones you could ever picture, like maybe doing a song with if the opportunity came up?
I'd love to do a song with Big Crit.
That's southern,
to be honest.
That's southern, like, yeah.
I think that we would do a well mesh up, and like, just because I think that people are my favorite artists and stuff doesn't mean that I necessarily hear myself working with them. But Big Crit is definitely somebody that I feel like we could mesh. So
that would be interesting as hell. I feel like if you get you on the hook,
Robert Glasper as well.
Robert Glasper, could we get Glasper produced, Breona on the hook, Crit on the verses?
It's perfect.
There we go. As match made in heaven right there. So as far as like the people you've collaborated with, I know you mentioned a few people like your engineer before and a lot of others that you've worked with. Is there anyone that like has ever stood out to you that you just really have a vibe and a chemistry with, that it's just very easy to get in and work with?
I would definitely say artist Buddy Rowe. You may have heard him on my project, but I think that he is a talented artist. We did a song called Elysian together, and then a lot on his project. I wrote a lot for him. He actually helped me write Ego on this album, Naked. And like, we're just all a big group, like myself, David Ruiz, which is my engineer, and Buddy Rowe, and then we have like a little instrumental group called The Realistics, and so they did some like filling in on my album as well. But I would say Buddy Rowe is one of the dopest artists that I work with that just stands out. And then there's another artist. Well, he's not on any of my music, but I'm definitely on his. His name is Mickey Woods. He's from Port Arthur, Texas. I'm going to send you his link because I think that you would like his music. But like, those are two of the artists that I just really always wanted to work with, and so I was able to. Another one is Q Guyton. He was on this song called Yanoya, and he was kind of singing a little bit. So I think that Q Guyton is a dope artist as well, and that we mesh very well in the studio. So.
Yeah, I'm down to check them all out. So if you want to send me any of their stuff, go ahead. I
sure will.
Listen for sure. So you mentioned earlier about your different like business ventures and everything. So I'm curious how that has really benefited your career as far as like you said, knowing more entrepreneurship helps you in your music. So how for you have you kind of I guess, taken your successes in that world and applied them to music, or are beginning to apply them to that?
I would definitely say, as far as being financially literate, which means having your paperwork together. I have a hair business, and so in that business, when the pandemic hit, I really had to learn how to get all of my ducks in a row, as far as paperwork. So when it comes to like just being established as an artist and carrying yourself as that, I just learned just how to register myself. Again, I told you about just learning how to market, because I have to market myself as a hairstylist as well in order to book clients. It's pretty much, I get all of my clientele through Instagram. So I kind of took the knowledge that I used to book clients and kind of tried to apply that to my music career as well. And then I'm also a trader, which is my newest venture that I'm most just proud of, because it's something that I never pictured myself doing. But so pretty much I trade, I do high frequency trading. And with doing that, I really just learned the importance of actually investing, right? Just making investments that are going to put you further. So many times, like, and there are way more consumers in this world than investors, I will say. So many times, like, we forget as artists that we are the business. So we have to carry ourselves as such. So even in high frequency, I have to learn how to brand myself, even with just being an artist, running my own hair business. My family and I run a restaurant. We have 3 locations. So I'm doing that on weekends, as well as being an artist. That's a lot. So I had to learn how to just find that balance and still be able to put myself out there and put artists at the forefront. But what I learned is that in order to do that, especially as an independent artist, no matter how you put it, unless you're just really out there selling your soul and you're not staying true to yourself and you have a positive message, sometimes it's harder to get out there. So me sitting thinking, oh, LA is going to be my shot, I'm going to blow, it was just me being ignorant, because that's not the reality of it. It just doesn't work like that. So artists have to understand that you have to have other things coming in to be able to pursue that. I'm sorry, I'm not okay with just being the broke artist. And let's say I have kids and I tell my kids, well, I don't have nothing to give you because I was just focused on being an artist the whole time. Like, no, I'm a business. Therefore, I should learn how to be more business minded and be able to spread those things out. And, so I'm just able to pull and take from each thing that I do and really create a balance between those things.
Yeah. And I think that's super great, too, that you already have that in mind. Like, you already know that that's, like you said, the reality of the situation is, like, you want to be able to fund your music, so you do these other things to do it. So it's like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of artists, they just skip right to thinking that they can just have it all right away and it's not, they're not going to have to go through anything. But it's like, there has to be planning involved. There has to be an actual concrete, like, step-by-step plan in order for things to work. I found that myself is like, before I was planning shit out, like, nothing was really working that well for me. I had to sit down and be like, I'm going to schedule my weeks out. I'm going to schedule these things out. I have a job. I have to schedule and work around my job as well. So it's like, everybody has a lot of different things going on. But it's like, you just have to figure out what works for you, how you're going to make it work, and just do what you want to do at the end of the day. You can still do what you want to do. You just have to find the balance. You know what I mean? It's like, and just like you said, you got to be responsible with it. If you have people you got to take care of, you got to do that first. And your music and your art can come second if it has to. Just work harder, you know what I mean? Just put in the work where it needs to be put in that day or that week or whatever. But I think that's very important and something that a lot of people just tend to not really want to think about, because it, you know what I mean? It's not always fun. Like, that's just the fact of the matter. It's like, entrepreneurship in general is just like, sometimes for people that's not fun, but you got to figure out how to make it fun. You know what I mean? You got to figure out how to, like I said, make it your own and build your own world up around yourself to succeed. So,
and you're basically, you're just like, I think of it as I'm creating the ladder, like, and I'm going up this ladder. So at whatever state I'm in, I know that I'm doing this because I want to get to that next step, and then that next step, and then that next step. So when you think of it like that, you're able to express more gratitude for every step that you're at, because you understand that I have to maybe somebody work at Walmart, but I understand I have to work at Walmart to make ends meet, so I can go home and record the music, and the music I have to put that out. So it's just everything kind of works hand in hand. Yeah. But we also have to stay in the reality of it. I had my heads in the clouds for so many years, just thinking, oh, I'm gonna blow up, I'm gonna be a star. Just kind of just living my life through media. But I know that just with the message that I'm pushing and the kind of music that I make, sometimes it's gonna be a little harder, to get that exposure. But I can't sit around and wait on that to happen. Like, I have things in my life that I have to make happen for myself and for those around me. So I'm not going to allow that to just stop me. I'm going to go hard in whatever area I can. I'm not just an artist. Like, I'm a businesswoman. Yeah. So
that's where that, like, patience kicks in, though, because you got to take it one day at a time. You can't get ahead of yourself. You can't be thinking too far ahead. You just got to worry about now, and that's how you'll find the real success. So that's super great. So I'm not sure, like, what type of, like, if you're working on a project right now, or is there anything you can reveal that you have coming up that we can be on the lookout for?
I actually have some music, and it's crazy because I kind of, after each project, I always just take a step back and allow myself to breathe and kind of go through things again. Because that's pretty much what happened to me when I had that gap from Metanoia to Naked. I had to go through things to allow myself to write and to open up more. So I'm kind of just at that going through, phase, but I do have music recorded that I hadn't put out yet. It's more so of me tapping into kind of a different genre. It's more so jazz based, which is I always wanted to branch out into making jazz music because I never felt like, R&B alone is my lane. I feel like I have more to offer, not talking down on R&B, but there's just levels to music. I feel like as you grow, so should, you should expand your horizon, right? And tap into other things. So I do have like a jazz-filled, neo-soul type of project that I want to release. I can't put a date on it really because I'm just trying to mesh everything and bring the sounds together. So, I don't have a date, but I can say that I'm just taking it one day at a time and allowing myself to really go through this journey because I don't want to cheat. One thing I don't want to do is like just cheat myself as an artist or cheat anybody from an experience because I was rushing it. So now I'm just chilling, honestly.
Well, now that you mentioned that jazz element, I might have to hit you about a project that I'll be working on soon because I'm trying to do a similar thing with the album that I have in mind, but it's going to be a while. So, but I'll keep you in mind for that for sure. That's interesting. So if you could go back 10 years ago, maybe give yourself a piece of advice or maybe not change anything at all, what do you think you would do?
I would just tell myself to honestly just believe in myself. Like, I know it sounds so cliche, but literally people really aren't where they want to be or they aren't doing the things that they want to do in life or they haven't started or they're living in fears because of their lack of belief, right? But if you understand, like, who you are, I'm a spiritual woman. So I believe that, God created everything on this earth. He created us. He created us in His own image. Therefore, if He's powerful, then we are powerful too because He resides in us. So I think that if people really tap into who they are and how much power they truly hold, then they will understand that anything is attainable. But for so long, I was governed by my fear. And so I would live in fear a lot. Like it really took me a long time to even start liking my voice. Because for so long, I would sit up and compare mine to other people. Oh, I don't know how to do riffs and runs like that person. I don't know how to growl like that person. I don't know how to, rather than just, well, what about, like, what do you have? Like, listen to yourself and what you have and, like, mold that into something and learn to appreciate that. So I feel like if 10 years ago I would have went back and just told myself to literally just believe in yourself and anything you want to accomplish. Like, I'm 28 right now. I don't care if I learned how to be a math teacher tomorrow. I'm going to go hard and I'm going to tell myself, yeah, I can do it because I know that I can. Like, anything is attainable if you just start believing in your abilities,
Exactly. I feel like sometimes people can't get out of their own way with that. You know what I mean? It's like they try and look at other people as like what's stopping them is like this person, but it also starts with themselves and they can't see past their own like clouded mind. You know what I mean? As far as like they're just, I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe because I've seen so many people in my life that have that same attitude. It's just like they don't understand that it's as simple as just a mindset shift to make a lot of things go away and just make a lot of things a lot easier for them. So definitely something that I think a lot of people need to hear. So 10 years from now, where do you think you see yourself in your life, in your business, in your career?
You said 10 years from now?
Yeah.
Let's see. Honestly, I don't know, but I will say I see myself retired. I told myself that I would retire at 33, so I'm putting that out into the universe. I want to be retired by 33 and just able to really live my life. Honestly, I just see myself being financially free. I see myself, I do want kids, so I'm big on, like, I want children, you know. I just see myself just in a much better place. I want land. That's pretty much like my end all. I want land with a nice house on the lake, so I can pass that to my kids. My businesses to be in place where I just pass that along to them. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I'm looking to accomplish that in less than 10 years. You know, so 10 years, I just want to be back chilling and making music. You know, just because I simply enjoy it, not because this has to be a job or just doing what I want to do.
Yeah, that's the ultimate goal right there. I mean, how could you argue with that? You know what I mean? That's awesome. Yeah. So do you have any final words of wisdom today for the listeners?
Any final words of wisdom? Generational wealth. That's something that I'm big on. Like I don't know. Like I feel like I've had a paradigm shift because we're so, especially in this superficial world, we're so used to like living for ourselves. You know, we go out and we buy these fancy things. We buy cars, we buy watches, we buy clothes, we buy shoes, we buy all these things that don't appreciate. And we're literally only thinking about ourselves in this moment. But you know, as I look around, like I'm not comfortable with seeing my mom work. Like I'm not comfortable with seeing my father work. You know, and they're in their 50s and 60s, and I'm just not comfortable seeing any of my people like just have to struggle for a penny. So I'm big on generational wealth. Why? Because of the impact that you may have. Like you never know, like what move you make might change the life of somebody around you. So I feel like if you're not working for generational wealth, or if you're not, even if maybe you don't want to have kids, whatever. If you're not working towards something, you don't have no impact. You really don't have no purpose. Like it's like Nipsey Hussle said, "Find your purpose, or you're wasting air." You know, I feel like everyone's purpose, if I could just stretch for it, is to have some type of impact in some type of way, right? Because when you're alive, people aren't really gonna appreciate you, like not how they will when you die. So when you die, and I know it's a hard thought, but think about what you would want somebody to say once you're gone. Like, would you want them to say, "Oh, that person was always mean. They was doing this. They had the shoes. And everything sounds so so they were just about themselves rather than that person." And he touched so many lives. Like, look at the impact that Nipsey Hussle had when he passed away. You know, he touched so many lives and changed so many people's situation. So I would just tell anybody that's listening is to think about your impact. You know, think about your impact and look into building generational wealth for those around you, you know? So.
I love it. Absolutely love it. And Breona, that's all I have for you today. Like I said, I appreciate you, being able to be on the show today and everything. And hopefully I'll make it down to Texas soon. We can maybe do one of these in person. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. You're going to have to come to Texas. I might come to Ohio. Who knows?
Yeah, well, if the weather ever gets better, but, it never really does up here, so who knows. But I wish you luck on, all your music, all your business ventures. Congrats on how trading's going. I see it's going very good for you, so I wish you luck in everything you got going.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. You have a blessed day.
Thanks, guys, for listening today. That was episode number 57. We'll be back this time next week. We're halfway through the year. I just want to thank everyone that's been, listening week in and week out, to all the guests. And I'm looking forward to a great, second half of 2021. I'm going to get a lot more great guests coming up. And obviously, as always, hit the support button on your podcast streaming platform if you want to send any funds. We'll see you then. Thank you very much.